All right, y'all, let's be real for a second. How many of us are walking around here feeling lonely, isolated, disconnected, but we also don't want to talk to anybody? We're lonely, but we don't want to speak first. We want closeness, but we ghost people. We want so deeply to be known and to be seen for who we are at our core, but yet we're scared to take the initiative and make a connection first. And listen, I say this with love. The problem might not be the loneliness epidemic. The problem might be you. All right, let's get into it, y'all. For those who are new here, hi, my name is Vani, and on my channel, I talk about all the things that we are unlearning and learning while living well and staying moisturized. And if this sounds like you, hit the subscribe button and hit the like button too. Hit all the buttons, except for the dislike button. Don't do that to me, y'all. And today I'm going to be talking about something that has been coming up a lot lately, for me at least, both offline and on, which is the rise of loneliness, the issue with us finding real connections, and what it actually takes for us to be close again. So let's get into it. So we've all seen the headlines, right? The Surgeon General has declared Americans to be in a loneliness epidemic. There are wellness trends, podcasts, startups, articles centered on finding your people, right? But can I be honest with y'all, me and you for a second? I think that a lot of us were never taught how to be known. We want connection, but we're not always creating a space for it. We expect people to come to us, right? To get us, to heal our wounds, to see us for who we really are, to acknowledge the goodness in our core. If you really want real connection, you have to be the one to go first. And I know it's hard for some of us to hear that, but hear me out. And I think by the end of this video, I may be able to convince you otherwise. And trust me, I get it. Sometimes we just want to go about our business and not be bothered. There are times where I go to the grocery store, I put on my podcast, and I shop in peace. And this is from someone who considers themselves very sociable, very outgoing. I make friends easily. So I can understand how much harder this is for folks who are a little bit more introverted and a little bit more reserved. But here's the thing though. Every single person you have known and loved started off as a stranger. Every single person you've known and loved have started out as a stranger. Every single person you've known and loved have started out as a stranger. I had to say that 3 times. I had to pull Dr. Umar, y'all, because that bears repeating. Also, I love that man. As controversial as he is funny as hell, and can no one take that away from him. But I wanted to repeat that because I think so many times we think that like friends are just going to like drop out of the sky, right? But to make a friend, you have to be willing to talk to a stranger. It is what it is. And because I try to practice what I preach, I'm gonna hit y'all with like a little bit of a story time. So about a week ago, I was on the train and this woman was across from me, and they had announced that they were doing some kind of service on the train. So we would have to get off at the next stop, take a bus, I don't know, 5-6 stops away, and then get on the same train to get to where we were going. So they announced this, and this woman and I, we looked at each other and we're just like, well, I guess we got to figure this out. And she was like, do you know what's going on? I said, no, but we can figure it out together. And it took 45 minutes to get from one stop to the next. But during those 45 minutes, we chatted. I found out that we have a lot in common. I actually found out she lives in an apartment building right next to me. I asked her for her number, and we went on our way. We also met a couple other people who were on the same train as us, who one woman was going to Maine. And I don't know, it was just a good vibe. It was just a group of us talking. And I left feeling like so lovely and so energized. And a few days later, actually, my neighbor and I were taking a walk around the neighborhood, and she saw me. She called out my name, and I was like, oh my God, hi, nice to meet you again. And all 3 of us walked for an hour around our neighborhoods, got to know each other better. And by the end of the walk, we all decided to have a potluck next month because my neighbor is traveling and so is she. And we all love to cook. So we figured out let's do a potluck, right? And literally, this is a woman that I met a week ago on the train because we were both trying to figure out what was going on with the train schedules and the delays and all of that. I use this story because I think sometimes we make connection so hard, and sometimes it doesn't even have to be that hard. And sometimes it's not that deep, right? I'm not saying get everybody's number that you talk to, right? Like play it by ear, go with your intuition. And sometimes a connection, a brief conversation with a stranger is all you really need to feel really good about yourself and have a great day. I say this because we tend to make connection a lot harder than it is. And sometimes it is just as easy as you don't know where you're going, someone else doesn't know where they're going, and y'all are trying to figure it out together. Also, I feel that we discount the power of being kind to people and to acknowledge their humanity when they're in our presence. Another quick story. Last summer, my best friend and I, we went to upstate New York to do some antiquing and some vintage shopping. And we passed by this guy's like table a few times. He had a bunch of beautiful, beautiful things. And we made a note to stop by his table last. So we stopped by his table, we're chit-chatting with him. And a few minutes into our conversation with him, he goes, "Thank you, ladies, for being so nice to me." And we're like, what? Like, what do you mean? Like, first of all, it was a beautiful Saturday upstate New York. The clouds were clouding, the sun was sunning. It wasn't too hot, wasn't too cold. I'm like, who is out here being mad at you? And he was just like, thank you guys. Like, people haven't been nice to me today. And we were like, oh my God, we're so sorry to hear that. Like, you sound like a lovely person. And his vintage goods were beautiful. This man had such amazing taste. Because we were kind to him and we said a hello and we complimented his goods, he gave my friend a marble vase that had never been used, that had a certificate of authenticity in there. That vase probably cost a pretty penny. And he gave me these beautiful crystal vintage cocktail stirrers that when I checked online go anywhere from $100 to $200. Y'all, I got 4 of them, 4 for $1. Simply because we said hello and we were nice to him. And I know this sounds like, duh, like, of course we're nice to people. But you'll be really surprised how many people walk on this earth not necessarily being kind to other people. And I don't want to give cliche advice, but sometimes the most cliche advice is also the most useful and the most simple. Being kind to other people really, really does take you far, especially when you want to combat feelings of loneliness. What's so funny to me is that we're out here praying for community. We're out here praying for friends, but we refuse to talk to the people who are next to us every single day. And honestly, like, something got to give, y'all. I don't want to come across as unsympathetic, and I hope I'm not coming across as unsympathetic, but I get it. Sometimes we fear, right? We fear rejection. We fear not being seen. We fear the one being awkward and our efforts not being reciprocated. And these are all very valid and real fears, and I don't want to discount that. However, the people around you are also lonely. They're also awkward. They're also waiting for someone to make that first move. We're all waiting for someone to make that first move, but no one wants to be the leader to make that first move. And by you being a leader, by you being an initiator, by you being a connector, you help other people feel more comfortable. When we go first, right? When we ask a real question, make space for other people, extend a little bit of kindness, right? We give permission for people to do the same, not just with us, but to other people that they may meet as well. A lot of times I feel like what we need to give people and what we need to give ourselves is grace. And I know that's hard in a world that honestly glorifies cancel culture, but so many of us are desperate to receive grace, but are unwilling to give that very same grace to others. And I think if we step back and acknowledge our humanity and acknowledge that we always don't get it right all the time, because we're not going to, because life is not meant to be lived in perfection, it's meant to be lived in authenticity. I think once we realize that, it'll be so much more easier to extend grace to other people. Also think that a lot of us have gotten really comfortable with picking people apart, right? We want the perfect friend. We want the perfect vibe. We want somebody to match our energy perfectly. But people are messy. They're human. And so are we. We are out here red flagging folks when, babe, we got red flags of our own. I know that I have red flags. I know that in many ways I am a wonderful person, but in many ways I'm also problematic, and I'm okay with that, right? I'm not saying that I'm not working on myself or I've never been to therapy. I'm acknowledging that I am a wonderful human being, but I'm also a flawed human being, and I can live in that duality, and that's okay. If we can all acknowledge that duality in us, we can stop being so nitpicky when it comes to creating community and the people that we have with us. Now, I'm not saying don't be discerning. I gotta say this because this is the internet, and I don't want anybody in my comments to be like, oh, well, everybody can't be your friend. Yes, everybody can be your friend. I am saying practice discernment, but also acknowledge that the person right across from you, right next to you, is a human being, just as you are a human being, and you're also flawed. Okay? Got it? Good. And, I want to kind of take it back and bring a little bit of a macro perspective here. This disconnection is not just personal, it is systemic. We live in a country, we live in a world that profits from our division, that wants us to be suspicious of each other, that divides us by socioeconomic class, by political affiliation, by race, by gender, right? Like, this loneliness epidemic is real. I don't want to discount that. And it's like I mentioned before, it is systemic. However, I do think that when we slow down, look somebody in the eye, and decide to be curious instead of critical, that's radical. That is resistance. That is resisting the status quo. That is putting up a big middle finger to the loneliness epidemic. All right, y'all. So let's talk about what we can actually do, right? You may be watching this and you're like, oh, okay, Vonnie, this is great. You're giving us this very abstract and nebulous ideas, which I get it if you say that. But here are some practical tips that I have used time and time again that have worked wonders. And I'm gonna tell y'all right now, these are practical and these are simple. You don't have to do anything. You don't have to buy anything, but it does require you to step out of your comfort zone, just a tad, okay? So can you promise me that you can do one thing from the 4 tips I'm about to list? As a matter of fact, if you're still watching right now, in the comments, please let me know the one thing that you're going to do from these tips that is going to help you become just a little bit less lonely and a little bit more connected in the world. All right, so let's get into it, y'all. First one, say hello and mean it. Now, don't say hello just out of politeness. Say hello, look somebody in the eye, and let them know that you're acknowledging them. I'm not saying be creepy. I'm not saying go like this. Hello. What I'm saying is just take a second to acknowledge the person that you're saying hi to. Number 2, ask one more question. If you're talking to someone, you ask them a question, how was your weekend? They go, my weekend was okay. Be gently nosy. Ask them why. Now, I'm not saying be all up in everybody's business. That's what I'm saying. What I am saying is that so many of us are dying to have slightly deeper conversations. So many of us are dying for people to be curious about us. And by being gently nosy, we invite that curiosity, right? I'm going to say this again because this is the internet. Use your discretion. Go by your intuition. But I implore you, so to speak, to pry just a little bit gently, softly. Okay? Number 3, practice receiving people without judgment. I know it's hard because, like I just mentioned, loneliness is systemic. We live off of a world that is profiting from our division as human beings. However, you don't have to agree with everything someone says, but you can listen. You can hold space for them. You can be soft with them. You can acknowledge their humanity. There are 8 billion people on this earth. Yours is a perspective and is a valid one, and theirs is also a valid perspective based on their own experiences. And I know that's hard for us to understand. Nor am I saying that you should hold space for people who are blatantly racist, homophobic, misogynistic. That's not what I'm saying. What I am saying is that it is okay to agree to disagree and leave it at that. You know what I mean? Number 4, which I feel like is a really hard one for people to do, is let yourself be seen. And I say that this is really hard because it requires being vulnerable. And being vulnerable to me means that you show up as yourself as much as you can and as authentically as you can, especially when you cannot predict the outcome. You cannot predict how people are going to perceive you. And for me, letting yourself be seen means saying what you really mean, being honest with yourself, sharing something honest, being a little bit more you. And I know that's hard to do, especially in a world of social media where it feels like you are rewarded for curating a sense of self as opposed to being your real self. But if we want to be seen as our true selves, we have to start somewhere. We have to show that self, right? And these tips that I'm giving you guys, they're practical. Like I said, I'm not saying, tell your whole life story and all of your secrets to the person in front of you at the Trader Joe's line. It does not have to be deep, but it has to be real. It has to be authentic. It has to be you. It's hard out here. Earth is great, but like low-key, Earth can be ghetto. It is what it is. Like we are living in some interesting times right now. And I've always been a big believer of controlling what you can in your own life, because there are so many things we can't control. But I always ask myself, what can I do for myself and for my community that makes my life and the life of other people better? Despite the loneliness epidemic, you can still take initiative and go first. You can still lead with curiosity. You can smile at the woman who has the great outfit on. You can ask your coworker how they're really doing. You can text a friend that you've been thinking about for weeks or months or maybe even years, right? Like sometimes we make things really difficult and they don't have to be. But I also want to acknowledge that it is scary. It is vulnerable. It is hard to put yourself out there. It is hard to show up authentically when you feel like a lot of people aren't doing so. And rightfully so, right? But it's worth it. It really is. I'm trying to figure out how to say this. Our lives are our lives. They are our very own. And whether you believe in reincarnation, whether you believe in the religious concepts of hell, heaven, purgatory, whatever you believe in, even you might not even believe in the afterlife. We are here on this earth right now. This life is what we're living right now. And I always think to myself, if I were to leave this earth and I don't know, be reincarnated as a butterfly, end up somewhere, I don't know, would I be happy with how I lived my life? And that is something that I ask myself almost every single day. And it may sound really heavy, but I ask that you do the same. And there are so many small things that we can do to make our lives a joyful one, that have nothing to do with money or things or any of the capitalistic BS that has been thrown at us, right? I hope that helps somebody out there watching this. All right, y'all. If this has resonated with you, let me know in the comments. Let me know how are you going to foster deeper connections or just connections in general going forward. I would love to know what you think about this video. Let me know in the comments. And till next time, love you all. See you soon and take care. Bye. All right. Oh my God, we're back again. Brothers, sisters, everybody sing. Did I put this on the correct setting? Oh, I went back to 18. Okay.